This is a production of PBS Charlotte.
The following episode of Charlotte Cooks is brought to you by Central Piedmont Community College and viewers like you. Thank you.
Coming up on the next episode of Charlotte Cooks, we're cooking dry-aged duck, a peach relish, and shishito peppers. Welcome to this episode of Charlotte Cooks. I'm Chef Pamela Roberts, and joining me in the kitchen today is Chef Sam Domenech. Sam, I'm so glad to have you back again.
So good to be here.
This is your third time with us, isn't it?
Yeah.
And today we are doing something pretty special. What are we making?
So we're gonna make a preview of Restaurant Constant's potential entree, and it's a dry-aged duck, buttermilk polenta. We have some seasonal peaches here, Freestone. They're beautiful. We're gonna make a relish with those and shishitos. All right, and then we're gonna use duck jus and kind of make a little variation on demi, miso and cipollini onion sauce for the duck.
It sounds delicious. And I know we've been playing with all the ingredients all morning and can't wait to get started. So we're gonna start with the polenta first, right?
I think so.
A buttermilk polenta, which is gonna be a really nice flavor, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And buttermilk adds that little bit of tang to it, I think, to brighten it up and lighten it up. So we're gonna use some milk first.
And could you use half and half if you didn't have any milk?
Absolutely.
Would you have to make any adjustments?
It just depends on what you like and your grits and your polenta. Sometimes we use chicken stock in the kitchen. Sometimes we use vegetable stock. Here we're gonna start with milk and finish with buttermilk. So we have some local polenta here. You know, at Your Farm to Your Table, we love to celebrate our local suppliers.
Absolutely.
And we're gonna be weaving those celebrations in and out of this dish throughout the morning.
It's really amazing how much is truly available here in North Carolina. You don't have to go very far to get just about everything. And I really love the feeling of being able to support local farmers and all of our local people doing so many wonderful things with food these days.
It is. You know, I tell my crew at the restaurant, it's like farmers market dopamine. Right?
Yeah, right?
It just feels good.
It does,
feels good to go
doesn't
in
it?
there, and you know, and kind of exchange ideas and get to know the people behind the food. Those are the true heroes. I know we've talked about this in the past, but I keep saying it. Those are the true heroes in the culinary scene. And so anytime we get a chance to use our voice to tell their story, we're going to do it.
I think it's wonderful to go to the farmer's market and find something I'm not familiar with and say, hey, what is this and what would you do with it? And they're always so happy to share, and they're just overjoyed to help you figure out what you're going to do with it when you take it home. And they want you to buy it. They want you to take it with you so you can explore something new. And that's the fun thing about going out to the farmer's market. You get what you're familiar with and then come home with something that's fun and new and different.
Love it. Yeah,
it's fun.
Love all that. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things, especially like being here in a school, a culinary school. I think it's really, really important for people, students, to have an understanding. Like we learn about sauteing, we learn about grilling, we learn about braising. Today we're going to learn about using acids and umami, but I think it's equally important to understand where your food comes from.
Absolutely it is.
And how to support the system in which your food comes from.
Absolutely. Because nothing stands alone. We are all interconnected.
Well, so much has changed too. Like,
absolutely.
I go to Matthews Farmers Market every Saturday morning, and I saw artichokes at Matthews Community Farmers Market. You know what I mean? Which is like, that was breakthrough material for me. And and I can remember it seems like just yesterday it was like a thing to where a badge of honor for a chef to import vegetables, say artichoke hearts from Napa Valley.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that was like their insignia of and their measuring stick for how good the restaurant would be. And now we don't have to do that anymore.
Nowadays, it's all local. That's our measuring stick. Nowadays.
It is. And even it gives even more the reason to celebrate. Okay, cool. So our milk is coming up to a simmer. So we're gonna slowly whisk in our polenta.
And this may look a little different than the polenta you buy in the grocery store because it's a coarse ground polenta. You're going to see some of the chunks. It's almost looking like a coarse ground grit almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it has so much flavor. These are so flavorful.
Yeah. And that's exactly like the coarse ground I love so much because you get so many different, it's almost like a flavor journey in your polenta.
It is.
You know what I mean?
It really is. It really is.
So if I were at home, or according to your recipe, you want to go 4 parts liquid to 1 part polenta. Obviously,
so you don't really have to measure
eyeballing
it.
a little bit here because I've made it a bunch of times, and so I can look at it and kind of tell if it needs a little bit more, needs a little bit less. But here we are. Okay, so we can let that simmer.
And how long is that going to take to cook, Sam?
That's going to take about 10 minutes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, 10
that doesn't
minutes.
take long at all.
No, not long at all.
And at the end, we're going to stir some other ingredients into it, aren't we?
You gotta have butter.
It's like,
we
yeah.
need some type of cheese, right?
Yeah,
Some
right,
type of cheese,
right.
yeah. And in this case, we have two different varieties of cheese.
I remember when I first made grits for my husband, he's used to having grits with water and salt, and that was it. And I made them and I put cheese and herbs and stuff like that. And he's like, what did you do to these grits? They're wonderful. I was like, just put flavor in them. That's it.
That's it.
That's pretty much what this is. It's just another variety of grit.
So we have
These are big duck
a variety of
breasts.
duck called Magret. All right, so this is a hybrid of two different breeds, Long Island Peking and Muscovy.
Oh, nice.
Right?
Okay.
So it has this super yummy killer fat cap. It's got a lot of fat on there, which we utilize to develop flavor, but also a very meaty flavor, but without the marbling.
Oh, okay.
Right? And
yeah.
so we're going to talk about how we do this at the restaurant, and some of the techniques that we use. All right, so your recipe calls for dry aged duck, right? We have a technique. I've been studying Japanese food for a while, right?
Yes, you have.
Cool.
Yes.
So part of what I've learned is their use of koji. Koji is a spore. Koji is a spore that interacts with the enzymes within the protein that we have here. Although, on a side note, we use it for vegetables as well. We're going to use it for grits today.
Oh, well, good.
Yep.
Good.
And so what we basically do is just use a wire rack, right? Have one of these handy. The rack is to maintain airflow.
Okay.
Most of the breasts that you get nowadays are like 90% prepped. All right.
Yes.
So here's your final 10%. So there's going to be a little bit of a vein right here. We're going to cut out. All right. And there's a little bit of silver skin right here that we're going to cut out.
And you want to cut that silver skin out because it's going to shrink and take your breast and make it all weird shaped.
Yeah, and it won't. We can't digest it. Our next step is I'm going to pull this tenderloin off.
Wow,
We'll
big
save
old
that
duck
for later.
tenderloin.
It is. Yep. And you're going to see like a little strap right here. So if we don't trim that up, it'll actually curl up and will not cook evenly. All right. So I'm going to take a little bit of this off right here. Save that because duck fat is magic.
Duck fat is magic.
Yep. And then I'm going to run my knife two ways. We're going to create diamonds. All right.
And that's just to help release the fat from the skin, right? As it's cooking?
Well, we're going to do a couple things here, right? We're going to facilitate the rendering process, but also offer an opportunity to get more airflow between the fat and the breast itself and create an opportunity for even cooking. All right.
I'm going to go ahead and turn this down a little bit, Sam. What do you think?
Let's do that.
Okay.
Good. I'm going to step over here and grab some milk. All right, that's good. Okay, so our next step with the duck. So we have a cleaned and scored duck breast. What we do at the restaurant, and what I'm going to do today, is I'm going to take some of this inoculated koji. Inoculated means liquefied. All right. We're
It
just gonna
smells
rub it
wonderful.
in. It really is. It's
It reminds
amazing.
me of something. I can't put my finger on it. Probably reminds me of koji.
Yeah. And so anyway, so that is our pre-prepped duck breast, right? All right. So what we do at the restaurant, what I highly recommend is at least 24 hours, if not 48 to 72.
Oh,
Just tuck
really?
it away in your walk-in uncovered.
So
of
it
course,
dries out a
label and
little
date
bit.
it. Yes.
Right, right.
Yep. Right. And we'll dry
Right.
it out and you age it. All right. Proteins are made with 90% water, right? All right. So what happens in the aging process? Some of the water is lost and the flavor is emphasized, right? We use the koji to facilitate that process and
Nice.
implement some of the umami flavor that we all love so much.
Very nice.
All right, so time to cook the duck. So we're
Yay.
gonna season. Always season both sides.
And you're seasoning with just salt and pepper?
Just salt and pepper, yeah. There's that. A couple talking points about rendering out duck, right? Especially since we're here in a culinary school, we talk about sauteing, we talk about searing. So this is a process called rendering, right? And so what we want to do is melt the fat and create this really, really crispy crust. One of my pet peeves cooking duck, and we see it all the time, right? You'll see this beautiful duck that somebody has spent an entire season raising. It's butchered, it's brought to a restaurant, it's cooked, it's plated, and it's served, and it has an unrendered out fat cap on top,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so not only is that like an incorrect cooking technique when it comes down to rendering, but it also affects your palate.
Yes.
How you taste food. If you have a
Absolutely.
big bottle of wine with that, it's going to affect how you taste wine. So many, many reasons to emphasize technique during the cooking process. When it comes down to duck, I just think it's really, really important to stay true to what we know. And, and that's render out the duck fat and get it nice and crispy. It takes as long as it takes, right?
Yes.
Can't really rush it.
And you really just started off with a dry saute pan too. You heat your pan up. We're using a cast iron skillet because that has the most even, most really great heat for duck.
We're going to forget about this for the next 5 to 10 minutes while that renders out. We might have to pour off some of the duck fat. And that's another reason why you got to go so low on the heat, so you don't burn the duck fat that you want to save, right?
Right.
All right, so our duck's working, polenta's working.
That polenta looks amazing. I can't believe how fast it thickened up. That's great.
Beautiful, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna finish with 2 cheeses, butter, and buttermilk.
We've got the polenta. It's in a holding pattern. We've got our duck that's rendering the fat. Next, we're going to work on a
Miso cipollini jus.
cipollini jus,
Yeah.
which is basically a sauce.
Yeah.
And so tell us about the onions, and then we'll talk about the miso.
So we have our dimmies, right? We have our stocks made from whatever protein we're working with. In this case, we made a really rich dimmy from the duck bones. That's our mother sauce, right? In this case, we're gonna make a variation on that. And we're gonna use a couple of ingredients to influence the flavor. First and foremost, we're gonna use mirin, which is a sweet wine. So there's our sweet.
Yes.
All right, we're gonna use soy, which is our salt.
Would
So
you use low sodium or just regular?
you can use both, really. It just depends on what you like. In this case, I use regular. It's actually an aged soy, so the flavor is a bit emphasized. So anyway, so think like gastrique
Yes.
in terms of sauce
yes,
making, right?
okay.
All right, so you have your sweet and you have your salty. All right, we're gonna use cipollinis, like a baby Vidalia. But what I love about this onion is that you can use a whole onion preparation,
Yeah.
which we'll show here in a minute. Sweet in flavor. Small, round, looks good on the eye. It's gonna look good on this plate, I think. We're gonna use red miso for this.
Okay.
All right. So here we have 2 different variations on miso, which we can talk about. Soybeans and rice. This is a shorter fermentation time, more soybeans, longer fermentation time, deeper flavor, deeper color.
And that's the difference between the colors, is just longer fermentation time
Yeah.
and the more intense flavor.
Yeah. So we're gonna add our buttermilk.
This is going to finish our polenta, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gonna finish
Okay.
our polenta. So we're gonna add our buttermilk.
And this is to give it that lovely tang.
Yeah. Gotta elevate our flavor a little bit, right? Carefully give it a whisk.
So now, to prep those onions, we're
Yeah.
going to take them.
Yep. For this preparation, I'm gonna take off both ends and just give them a quick peel.
Okay.
It's everybody's favorite job, isn't it?
I know, peeling shrimp, peeling onions, peeling garlic, everybody loves those jobs. in
Grunt
the
work.
kitchen.
So I have a couple that I've already prepped up, right? Pretty much pre-caramelized. All right, so we're gonna add those here. So those are gonna sizzle away a little bit. All right, so for the foundation of our sauce, right? So we're gonna add sweet wine,
Which is the mirin.
mirrored. Yep, equal parts. So yeah, equal parts soy and mirin. Obviously, we talked about it before. It's sweet and salt. All right, so that's gonna be the foundation of our flavor for the sauce here. And at this point, we can go ahead and add our miso, right? For amount this much, I'm gonna use about a half teaspoon.
So you don't use a whole lot of miso. It's
The
got a
prominent,
nice
yeah, the flavor's
flavor.
pretty prominent. All right, so I'm gonna leave that there. All right, and then we have our thyme here, which I'm gonna go ahead and pick, but this is an herb that we're gonna finish the sauce with.
So you don't put it in right away?
I don't put it in right away. I put it right at the end so that the oil is really, really kind of like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? They have their moment.
There's that
Yeah.
moment. Time has that aroma that is.
It does. Yeah,
and there it is. I smell it right now. There
yeah,
it
and
is.
I feel like it needs to go out right whenever we finish the sauce, and that way we have, the greatest impact from a flavor standpoint in the herb. All right, so I'm gonna step up here. I'm gonna check our duck again. It's getting there.
That looks great.
It's getting there. All right. And I'm going to take a moment, right? I have this beautiful Japanese eggplant that we got from a farm called Wild Hope down at Matthews Community
So
Farmers
these are
Market.
being grown locally. Mm-hmm. That's fabulous.
Yep. And so
That's
what we're going to do,
fabulous.
so what we're going to do is we're going to cook these in the duck fat.
In the duck fat. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Super simple. I'm just going to quarter them.
I bet a lot of people aren't familiar with these Japanese eggplants.
They're my favorite.
They're so nice.
Yeah, they're my favorite.
You don't have to salt them. You don't have to seed them. You can just cook them.
Yeah, straight up. Like we're doing today.
Put them right into the fat. That rendered duck fat is going to make them so delicious. Because, you know, eggplant will absorb just about anything they come close to.
It really is.
So they're going to absorb all that beautiful duck fat.
Okay, so our sauce base has been reduced. It's reduced down to a glaze. And so it's time to add the stock.
Really good
Yeah.
stock takes time.
Yeah, it does.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about these peppers, right?
Yeah, we are. I'm going to put some here, and then we're going to just talk about where I get them and the flavor profiles and how about like 1 in 10 will light you up.
Yeah, they will. They can.
I don't know, you know, they kind of came around and became trendy, you know, I guess 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that. And, you know, and again, it's like a tribute to our local suppliers, right? Somebody, my buddy Isaac grows these at Harmony Ridge. And, you know what I mean? So he's listening to us, you know, we're having a conversation with the people, you know, on the farms. And so anyway, so instead of importing these, you know, via US Foods or some broadband supplier, we have them here locally.
That's fantastic.
They're on my list this morning. I received it. All right, so moving on over to our eggplant. And so you can almost like just tap on it, right?
Yeah.
And hear how crispy
They're
it is.
crispy.
And even though, like, I'm not sure how this is showing up on the camera, but it might look a little bit like it has a deep char. But whenever you taste it, you won't taste char. It'll just be deeply roasted.
Duck is one of those special things that way, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I love duck.
So we're gonna let those veggies roast with the breast. The breast is almost done. I'm gonna turn this up just a little bit. Oh, that's my front burner.
So what temperature do you serve your duck?
The breast right at medium rare.
Okay.
Yeah. People don't really understand the thing about chicken and salmonella and undercooking chicken. Most of the salmonella, like the poisoning process takes place in the handling, you know, not the birds themselves.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, no, I'm not saying like go get a chicken and cook it medium rare. I'm just saying like, you know what I mean? Like educate yourselves on, you know, on why we cook things the way we cook them, and you'll have a better understanding. And then again, like not to beat the dead horse, but you know, like Sammy from Newtown Farms, he raises chickens humanely on Mother Nature's timeline, and it's a beautiful experience. Had one last night.
I bet it's delicious too. So now, Sam, look at those
That's
vegetables.
good.
Oh, is that good? Is it done?
Almost.
All right.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull the veggies off and give them a quick drain. Drain some of this fat off of there, and so that whenever we plate up and we actually eat it, it's not as fatty as it is right now. And it's just a great way to present food, right? Like it's just one of the steps of refinement that we use as we plate up and serve our guests. All right, so the duck is finished roasting. All right, so anytime you roast a meat, particularly when you're gonna slice on presentation, it needs to rest.
It's been working hard. It needs to rest.
Yep.
Take a rest, little duck.
All right, so I'm gonna slide these peppers in over to the hot side of the pan. By the time we plate up, they're gonna be perfect. They're gonna be ready. So I'm gonna slide over here with Chef Pam.
Let's
All
see
right.
how we're doing with this polenta.
Just taste. We do not want spackle.
But we do want it done.
We do want it done.
Is it good?
Let's cheese it.
And butter? You want me to stir while you add?
Shall we?
Sure.
Yeah, dream team. Boom. All right, so we have white cheddar. We have parm. That much. That's how we measure, isn't it?
Yep, that's
All
how we
right.
measure.
So
Makes it
butter,
good.
I cube
Only
that
a
up.
little bit of butter,
A
right?
little bit of butter, yeah. Maybe 2 more.
There we go. Okay, so we've got polenta done, duck is done and resting.
Yes.
Eggplant ready to rock and roll,
Yeah.
and our shishito peppers all grilled, and not grilled, but blistered and whatever.
Yep.
We're going to put these into a wonderful peach relish, right?
That's right.
All
yeah.
right. So show us how to do that peach relish.
Okay, great. So we're talking about a relish, right? And so it's basically what I do for my recipes is I'll use vinegar and I'll use sugar, right? So that'll be my base. That's my template, right? In this case, I use 4 parts vinegar, 1 part sugar. Okay. All right, and then I'll flavor that that liquid with different aromatics. Sometimes I use ginger, sometimes I use rosemary. In this case, we're going to use cinnamon stick, star anise, and coriander.
Okay.
Right. We have miso. We have, you know what I mean. There's a little bit. We have a little bit of homage to some Asian-oriented cooking, and so we're going to influence the peach relish with some Asian-oriented flavor profiles. Right.
Nice. Very nice.
And so basically, what I did. So I have some finished product here, but what I did was I put these on the grill. So if this grill was on right here, we put it on here. It only takes a few minutes to grill them. It's almost like roasting a big red pepper, only this is tiny.
And we don't want to peel these.
I didn't peel these. No, I didn't peel these. I want the charred flavor. I want a little bit of bitter in with the relish. All right, and so that was my starter here. With the peaches, we talked about having Freestone peaches earlier. All right, so this is basically our equator.
Yes.
Right. So that's what I'm looking for right here. So I'm going to break this peach down by first cutting it in half. I simply gave it a score all the way around. All right, and then I gave it a twist, and I pulled it apart.
Yeah.
Right, and so that's what we refer to as Freestone peaches. And we mentioned earlier we're filming in July. All right, so this is basically peak peach season.
Yeah, it is. And the Freestones come in later than the Clingstones. So the first peaches you see of the season will usually be the Clingstone peaches.
We're going to manipulate it slightly. So we would have a pot like this. We would bring our vinegar and sugar down, right, almost by 75%.
Okay, make it a nice syrup.
Yeah, we'd add our aromatics and let that sit, almost let the flavors marry, and then drain it off about 45 minutes later on, right? Put it back in the same pot. I would cut this down.
And what are you going to cut that into a small dice?
Small dice, yeah, correct.
And I'm always emphasizing to the students, learn your knife skills, learn your cuts, and practice, because you're going to use it all the time.
So we talked about the peaches, we talked about the knife cuts, we talked about bringing the liquid down. So when a fruit like a peach is at peak season and peak flavor, it doesn't require a lot of cooking. It's already super tender. All right, so basically what I did with the one that I have here, I just brought my liquid back up to a simmer, added the peaches, and turned it off, and just kind of let it steep. Same thing with the peppers. Just gave them a quick dice, which I'll demonstrate now.
Do you worry about taking any seeds out of these peppers?
Not particularly, no.
Because you kind of want the heat, even if it lights you up.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. So that's basically what we're working with right there. And again, like to kind of circle back on the point of making this relish, the liquid is sour, the peaches are sweet, and then the shishitos have a little bit of smoke to them. Sometimes they have a little bit of fire to them, right? And so you have a lot of dynamics in there, and just this little condiment. Right, we're serving duck, we're serving polenta, cream, butter, cheese, right? Yeah. So we need something that's going to elevate the dish. I think this is going to do a good job of it.
Absolutely.
I think our next step is to finish off the sauce.
Okay.
Is that okay?
And what do we need to do to finish off that sauce?
We're going to add just a little bit of this thyme.
Okay.
I'm going to give it a rough chop.
So this is the duck stock, the cipollini, the mirin, and the soy sauce that is reduced now down to a glaze.
It is. I add that at the end. As we already know, herbs and the flavors found in the herbs are in the oils of the herbs themselves, right? All right, so a little bit of heat releases the oils release the flavor. We're going to do it at the very end, and that's our hows and that's our whys. All right.
Sam, let's plate this up.
We're going to slice our duck. So one tip on slicing duck, we talked about scoring earlier, right? All right, so I just follow the lines in which I scored and make those my slices. So first and foremost, I'm going to cut it down the center.
So you cut it in nice thin slices.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. How beautiful that is.
Yeah. Okay, and you can see where there's very little fat remaining, right?
Yes.
And so what you have is this really, really beautiful crust that we developed flavor and texture with.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to slide over here.
All right.
We're going to add some polenta. Onto our veg. we can just kind of take turns with the eggplant and the shishito. So remember the cipollinis, right?
Mm-hmm. You want to fish those out, I bet.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
They've almost been candied.
Yeah, right? Yes.
Right? And we have one more element, and then we're
is
done.
Beautiful.
Fall of 2022.
Look at this. This is fantastic. And look at this plate. This is a beautiful plate. We've got buttermilk polenta, rendered dry-aged duck breast, peach relish, Japanese eggplant, and shishito peppers that have been cooked in the duck fat, beautiful cipollini onions that have been simmered in mirin and soy sauce. If you want the recipes, send me an email at Pamela, Pamela, .roberts, ROBERTS, @cpcc.edu, and I'll be happy to send you a link to all of our recipes that we have. Sam, thank you for being here.
So happy to be here.
It's always a joy to have you here, and just wonderful. Thank you.
Can't wait to do it again.
Oh, we'll do it again. So thank you for watching this episode of Charlotte Cooks, and we'll catch you next time.
A production of PBS Charlotte.